All right, today we're diving into a theological text from 1832 that pretty much turned the traditional idea of heaven and hell completely on its head. It's known as the Vision, and believe me, what it proposed was nothing short of revolutionary for its time.
So, let's just start with the huge question this whole thing tackles. For centuries, the afterlife was basically sold as a simple choice, right? You get an eternal reward or you get eternal punishment. But what if that's not the whole story? What if there's way more to it than just two final destinations?
Okay, so let's set the scene. Picture this. It's 1832. Joseph Smith and Sidney Rigdon are holed up in a room in Ohio, and they're deep in the middle of translating the Bible. They're working through the Gospel of John when they hit one single verse that just stops them in their tracks. It sparked a question that really set the stage for everything we're about to get into.
So this is the verse right here, from John chapter 5. It talks about two different resurrections, one for the just and another for the unjust. Now, according to the story, this idea just made them marvel. It made them wonder, wait a minute, if God really rewards everyone based on what they did, could heaven truly be a one-size-fits-all kind of place?
And as they're wrestling with this question, something happens. The text says, "The glory of the Lord shone round about, and the eyes of their understandings were opened." So this wasn't just about thinking anymore. This was about seeing. And then the vision builds to this incredibly powerful declaration. It frames everything that's about to come, not as some theological theory, but as a direct testimony. The core message, right from the jump, is this simple, profound statement, that He lives. And this right here, this is the bedrock for the entire vision. It's presented as a first-hand account. It's not we think or we believe, it's we saw Him. This moment becomes the anchor for everything else they're about to learn about the afterlife. Okay, so after this incredible vision of the divine, the focus suddenly flips to its complete opposite. It introduces the one group of people who, according to this text, actually fall outside of God's entire plan of salvation. The vision brings this figure onto the stage, an angel named Lucifer, who was once in authority. His rebellion is described as being so tragic that the heavens wept over him. He gets this title, perdition, which basically means total damnation, and that name comes to define the fate of anyone who follows him.
And this is an absolutely crucial distinction the text makes. On one side, you have the sons of perdition, who face what's called eternal damnation. But on the other side, well, basically everyone else. According to this vision, every other person is eventually redeemed and gets some kind of salvation. I mean, that is a huge departure from the classic heaven or hell model.
But look at how specific the criteria are for this group. This isn't just about simple disbelief or making mistakes. According to the text, we're talking about people who had a deep, personal knowledge of God's power, received the Holy Spirit, and then consciously chose to deny it all. It's a pretty high bar.
The language used to describe their fate is, well, it's intense. It's stark and absolute. The vision paints their punishment as something final and unending. And this serves as the ultimate contrast to the incredible, tiered salvation that's offered to literally the rest of humanity.
Okay, so now we get to the real heart of the vision. After laying out that one major exception, the text rolls out a brand new map of heaven, a tiered afterlife with three separate kingdoms, and each one is symbolized by a different light in the sky.
So let's start at the first level, which is called the telestial glory. Its brightness is compared to the stars. The text says this kingdom is for people who rejected the gospel and lived unrepentant lives. But, and this is a huge but, they still inherit a kingdom of glory after they've suffered for their own sins.
All right, moving on up, we get to the terrestrial kingdom, which has a glory like the moon. This is described as the place for good, honorable people who were just not valiant in their testimony of Jesus. So they weren't wicked, but they also weren't, fully all in.
And finally, at the very top, we have the highest kingdom, the celestial. Its glory is like the sun. We're talking blindingly bright. This is for those who go all in, who embrace the gospel, keep the commandments, and overcome the world by faith. They are the ones who get to dwell in God's presence.
Seeing it all laid out like this really makes the structure just click, doesn't it? You've got three distinct levels of reward, all based on a person's actions and commitment. It's not a simple pass-fail system. It's a whole spectrum of glory, from the stars to the moon, all the way up to the sun.
Yeah, this chart just gives us a simple visual of that hierarchy. The text describes it as a progression. The glory of the moon surpasses the glory of the stars, and the glory of the sun surpasses them both. It's like a ladder of glory, power, and dominion.
So let's pull back. What's the big takeaway here? Why was this vision such a game changer?
Well, because it completely redrew the map of the afterlife that most people in the 19th century were used to.
It all boils down to this number, 3. Just by moving away from a simple heaven or hell choice, the vision introduces this nuanced, multi-layered afterlife. And that one simple idea, it changes everything.
Now, to really get this, we have to understand what glory even means in this context. It's not just a bright light. It's a person's state of being, their power, their reward, all of it, symbolized by the light of the sun, moon, and stars.
And what's really fascinating is the sheer scale of this whole thing. The vision says the number of people in even the lowest kingdom of glory are innumerable as the stars. I mean, just think about that. It paints a picture of salvation that is vast and almost incomprehensibly inclusive.
And that brings us to what is maybe the most radical idea in the entire text, nearly universal salvation. This one line, that Christ saves all the works of his hands, except those sons of perdition, presents a God whose redemptive power reaches almost everyone, assigning each person to a kingdom of glory that they can inherit. So we'll leave you with this to chew on. If the afterlife is a spectrum of glory instead of an all-or-nothing outcome, what does that suggest about the nature of God? How does a system like this completely reframe our ideas of both divine justice and ultimate mercy?